Knowing that he was going to attend the clan meeting today, Jason got up early in the morning and tidied up his appearance that he had not tidied up in the past 2 days. After all, the Todd family was also a major noble in the Kingdom of Orlando, and they would not be well groomed at the clan meeting. Jaya can't explain it. Older Renault was more anxious than Jason. Although Jason had become a child of the Todd family under Rost's promise, it was not announced at the clan meeting after all. Renault had already recovered early in the past 2 days. Just waiting for this day. After sorting everything out, Jason and Renault came to the hall where the Todd family held the clan meeting. It is said to be a clan meeting. In fact, on a fixed day, the important figures of the whole clan gather together to talk about some important things about the family. There is also a coming-of-age ceremony for the direct children of the family who have reached the age. For a family, that is an extremely important thing. Jason originally thought that he had gone too early, but when he arrived at the hall, he found that there were already many people in the hall. Those who could appear in the family hall were all important direct descendants of the family, such as ordinary collateral descendants will also have a banquet today, but the location will not be in the family hall. Second uncle. Dick and Grayson immediately came forward when they saw Reno. The rejuvenation potion Reno gave Dick that day made Dick the envy of others among the children of the family. A bottle of soul-restoring potion worth hundreds of thousands of spirit coins is a treasure that their parents would drool over. For them, the third-generation disciples, even though they were born in a big family like the Todd family, it is also unthinkable. As family members came in one after another, soon there were many people in the entire hall. As the time approached, many people sat down in their seats. There are several long dining tables placed in the hall. There are 7 in total at the front of the hall. Those dining tables are also arranged in a very regular manner. It is obvious that they are seated in order according to their status. Renault is very familiar with this situation. As the core figure of the family, Jason will naturally not sit with ordinary third-generation disciples like Dick. His seat is in the first row of tables under the head, and Renault is leading Jason to sit down. After getting off, he found a corner and sat down. Jason wanted to sit with him, but Renault didn't agree. In desperation, Jason had to return to his seat. The rules in a big family are extremely strict, and Jason's seat cannot be changed casually, otherwise it would be disrespectful. Now Renault just wants to see his son return to the family instead of himself, who was expelled from the family. In this way, he will satisfied. He had been waiting for this little wish for 18 years, and today, it finally came true. After the entire hall was almost full, 5 gray-haired old men walked in wearing family robes. Among them, Claude and Karen were one of the 5 people. After entering the hall, the 5 people stood in front of the chief, sit down in the 5 positions. Looking at Jason, Claude had a sneer on his face. He even glanced at Renault, who was sitting in the corner, with a weird smile on his face. He didn't know what evil idea he was thinking of. The last ones to walk in were Leo, who is the patriarch of the family, and Rost, who has the highest status in the family. As an ancestor of the family, Rost does not participate in ordinary family meetings at all, but today is the most important clan meeting in the family. He will definitely participate. Jason sat on the second seat to the chief. Sitting next to him were some older middle-aged people. Each of them had shining eyes, dignified sitting posture, and exuded power. Some even wearing armor. He looks bright and full of energy in every gesture. The Todd family is a martial arts family. Most of the children in the family will join the army after they have successfully cultivated and will be stationed at the borders of the kingdom. Some of them are either generals of the kingdom, big shots with power, and even some regiments of the kingdom's army. Chief, of course, the biggest one is Leo, the royal minister and minister of the general headquarters. Among these people, the lowest strength is the 5th level spiritual master. There are even 2 people. Jason also feels that they may have reached the strength of the 6th level spiritual master. The core disciples of these families would not commit suicide under normal circumstances, usually guarding outside, but during the clan meeting, the generals who can come back will take the time to come back. Jason, who has just entered the Todd family, this is the first time he sees the strength of the family, and he can't help but be secretly frightened. While Jason was surprised, Renault was somewhat lamenting. From among these people, Renault could see that the family's power today is much less than it was back then. Renault still clearly remembers the clan meeting that year. There are many more core members of the family holding important military positions in the kingdom than there are now. Moreover, during the clan conference back then, due to the large number of core members, ordinary third-generation disciples could not participate in the clan conference in the hall. Only the best of the third-generation disciples could have the honor to dine with the adults, and those who served were the strong ones. Like clouds, it is extremely majestic. While Jason was looking at the core members of the family, these core members of the Todd family were also curiously looking at Jason, a boy whose age was obviously different from theirs. Many of these core members were from the same era as Renault. They all admired Renault, the family's former #1 genius, at that time. However, the family's subsequent experiences also made many of these people full of disdain for Renault. Out of resentment. This time I came back to participate in the clan meeting, but I heard that Renault brought his son Jason back to join the clan again, and in the competition field a few days ago, Jason was also the first among the 3 generations of disciples, the 3rd generation. After defeating Kelly, a senior spiritual master, these core members all looked at Jason curiously. Originally, in their imagination, Jason, who was just a young man, would definitely be at a loss and look nervous under the gaze of these people. After all, each of them holds heavy troops in the kingdom. With a single order, tens of millions of soldiers march forward, risking their lives to fight, and all of them have an aura of calmness and dignity. But what surprised them was that after feeling their gazes, Jason, who was sitting there, not only did not show panic on his face, but was extremely calm. He also looked back at them one by one, with a smile on his face and an indifferent expression. What surprised them even more was that they, who were very experienced, could see that Jason's calmness at the moment was not a forced calmness. The way he looked at him was like a general looking at his soldiers. Let me ask, a general, how could you be nervous in front of one of your own soldiers? Okay, everyone is here, let's start. Leo, who was sitting next to Rost, glanced at Rost and said loudly after seeing Rost nodding. At this moment, suddenly wait a minute, a voice came from a position not far from Leo's side. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were focused on that person. It was the second elder, Ku. Lauder. Second elder, what's the matter with you? Leo frowned and looked at Claude and asked, while Rost sat there silently, but there was also a trace of dissatisfaction on the corner of his mouth. Chief Leo, when will our Todd family's clan meeting allow outsiders to come in and participate at will? Claude stood up and looked at Leo and said loudly. Second elder, what do you mean? Leo's frown deepened, and he already felt something bad in his heart. Chief Leo, who is this person sitting in the corner of the hall? Why don't I know when there was such a person in our family? A strange smile appeared on Claude's face, and then his finger was already pointing at Renault in the corner. The eyes of everyone in the hall suddenly focused on Renault, and there was a lot of discussion. But Renault, who was sitting in the corner, waiting for the moment when Leo announced that Jason had returned to the family, had an expression on his face. Turned livid in an instant. Claude looked at Leo, whose expression turned sour in vain, and sneered in his heart, Humph, Leo, I want to watch you personally drive that Renault out of the family hall, to see what prestige you still have to manage the family in the future. Claude, this Renault is my second brother and the father of Jason, the core disciple of the family. How come he is not qualified to sit here? Leo said coldly. He did not expect that Claude would actually fight. The clan meeting will bring this matter up. Chief Leo, you said this man is your second brother? Haha, that's really funny. A sneer appeared on Claude's face. Chief Leo, your second brother was expelled 18 years ago after leaving the family. Not only is he not a member of the family, he is even a sinner of the family. You said this person is your second brother, Renaud. How can such a sinner of the family still participate in the family meeting? Haha, let's face it, our Todd family he will be ridiculed by the whole kingdom. That is, the sinners of the family can actually participate in the clan meeting of the family. It is ridiculous, simply ridiculous. Karen, who was sitting next to Claude, also said angrily. Chief Leo, you have to explain what is going on. Another elder, who was close to Claude, also sneered. Seeing this ridiculous scene, all the tribesmen in the entire hall suddenly started buzzing with discussion. Almost everyone present knew about Renaud's identity, but they all turned a blind eye, but they did not expect that this Crowdet actually blocked the start of the clan meeting and brought it up directly, and pointed the finger directly at the Leo clan leader. It was obvious that he was taking advantage of the Leo clan leader. Everyone knows that the forces in the family are divided into two factions, namely Chief Leo and his group and the second elder and his group. Suddenly, everyone focused their attention on Leo to see what he was going to say. Claude, I'm leaving now. Before Leo could speak, Renaud stood up and was about to walk out with a livid face. Humph, when will our Todd family's clan hall be able to allow an outsider to come and leave at will? Let us tell the Todd family where their face will be. Claude said reluctantly. Road. Claude, what do you want? Leo said in a deep voice. What do I think? Haha, Chief Leo, you are wrong. I am just thinking about the family. In the family, Leo, you are the leader, so naturally you will handle this matter. Claude, there was a hint of cunning on his face. Claude, don't bully others too much. Jason couldn't bear it any longer, stood up and shouted, killing people without nodding his head. Since he came to the Todd family, Claude has gone too far every time, and has taken advantage of himself every time. When his father launched an attack, Jason was completely angry and his eyes narrowed into a thin line. If someone who was familiar with Jason in the past life saw Jason's look, they would be too scared to move. As long as Jason narrowed his eyes in the past life, it meant that the person who made him angry would have a tragic ending. Boy, who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to speak here? A middle-aged man, sitting on the second seat, stood up, pointed at Jason and cursed. This man was Claude's son Abel, king of Cole, the commander of the Dawn City Guards. He is also considered the #1 figure in the kingdom. Whether you are qualified or not is not up to you. Why do you interrupt me when I say something? Get out of my way. Jason said coldly. Abel was so angry that he couldn't speak for a while. Little guy, you have to be careful what you say. There are things that a child cannot say. An old man sitting at the head of the second seat stood up and looked at Jason, relying on his old skills. Who are you? Jason glanced at the old man. Today was a clan meeting. Everyone present was wearing family robes with the Todd family emblem printed on them. This old man was wearing what's left is a magic medicine master's robe. Old man Eaglin, the old man said proudly. Igrin? Which onion is this? I don't know you. You are not from the Todd family. Why are you here? Haha. Claude laughed. Jason, Master Igrin is the king's palace spirit. Medicine master. His attainments in elixir medicine have reached the level of intermediate elixir master. He is a well-known elixir master in the kingdom. He was specially invited by our Todd family to come here today. What can you say? So what kind of bullshit is this? The master of spiritual medicine, I thought he was some big shot. Jason said disdainfully. Eaglin, who was feeling extremely good at first, was so angry that his beard stood up. Presumptuous. Claude pointed at Jason and shouted angrily. It's so outrageous, it's simply outrageous. Karen and others also shook their heads in anger. At this moment, that's enough, an extremely stern shout came from the chief, and Rost, who had been silent, stood up with his eyes widened. Look at how decent you are all. Today is the day of the family clan meeting. Look at the chaos now. Rost has been in the family for so many years. This is the first time he has seen the family clan. The conference turned into such a mess. Uncle Claude still wanted to speak. Okay, stop talking, and get out of here. Rost shouted angrily at Claude. He could tolerate Claude and others fighting for power with Leo, the patriarch, but he wouldn't care about this. But Claude actually attacked Leo at the clan meeting, making the entire clan meeting look like a messy vegetable market. This was something he would never tolerate. Seeing that Rost was really angry, Claude and the others all fell silent. Master Eaglin, I made you laugh. Please don't take the children's jokes to heart. For Eaglin, who is the palace elixir, Rost still did not dare to be too loud. The current family situation has already changed. It was getting more and more difficult, and it was definitely unwise to offend a palace elixir who had great power in the kingdom. Humph, you children of the Todd family are indeed extraordinary. Eaglin snorted coldly and sat down. Seeing Eaglin's livid face and thinking of what Jason said earlier, Rost also had a headache. Reno, please go out. Rost said, this matter ends here, now the clan meeting begins. Before anyone could say anything, Jason suddenly left his seat and walked to Reno next to him. He said, Father, let's go. Jason, what are you doing? Rost said angrily. Jason's behavior completely made him angry. Nothing to do, just go out and walk around. The air here is too dirty and smells bad. As he spoke, Jason had already pulled Renaud to the door of the hall. All the children of the Todd family present looked at Jason with astonishment. This Jason was really awesome. He was the first in the family to dare to say this in front of Rost. You come back here. Rost pointed at Jason and said angrily. Jason. Leo also shouted loudly. Since my father can't be in the hall, what's the point of me being alone? At worst, you can expel me from the family just like you expelled my father. Jason said a word and pulled old Renaud. He walked out of the hall directly and disappeared from everyone's eyes. This Jason is so outrageous, Karen said with anger on his face. How can you let such a guy return to the family? Okay. Rost sat down angrily. At this time, a servant rushed in without notice. Rost, who was still angry, was already in a bad mood. Seeing the servant's reckless look, he cursed angrily, You bastard. Why are you like this? I don't know the etiquette, I just broke in. Seeing Rost's rage, the servant was frightened to death. He forgot to say what he wanted to report, and stood there in panic, at a loss. Okay, if you have anything to do, tell me. After such a roar, Rost's anger disappeared a lot. When he saw the servant standing there, with a look of panic, he couldn't help but wave his hands. The servant finally regained his composure and said quickly, Master Inez, Master Blue, Master Casper, Master Saha and Master Bisfam from the kingdom are here, saying they want to congratulate. Master Inez and the others? Come to congratulate? Rost was startled, and then he shouted angrily, Asshole. Why don't you come in quickly? All the members of the Todd family in the hall also started talking, and Eaglin, he was so nervous that he almost stood up. Although he was also a palace elixir master, in terms of status, Eaglin, who was an intermediate elixir master, could not be compared with Inez, a low-level elixir master. Ever since the eldest prince fell ill, this can be seen from the fact that Sente has summoned elixir masters who are above the level of senior elixir masters. After a while, the servants greeted the 5 old men and walked in. Rost and others all stood up to greet them. No one was sitting there in the entire hall. As soon as they entered the hall, Inez and others bowed their hands to Rost and said with a smile on their face, Congratulations, congratulations. Rost quickly returned the gift and said with a smile on his face, You're welcome, I don't understand what the masters mean, where does this joy come from? Saha and others replied with smiles, I heard that the Todd family is holding a clan meeting today, and several family children are going to hold coming-of-age ceremonies. Duke Leo is said to be a good friend of the DPRK and China. He is here to congratulate the Todd family on their prosperity and attend the clan meeting of the Duke's family. Lord Rost doesn't mind if we chatter. Fake, too fake. Rost and others knew there was something wrong as soon as they heard it. Inez, who are they? It was Leo's own birthday, but none of these people came to congratulate him. Fortunately, now that the children of the family have grown up, they came in droves to congratulate him. They also said that they were good friends in the court and China. This didn't make sense at all, and in the past, clan meetings were held every year. At that time, there were all the children of the family who were adults, but I didn't see a few of them appearing. Although Rost knew that Inez and the others were talking nonsense, but who were Inez and the others? Since they said that, Rost could only laugh along and said, I don't dare to take it, I don't dare to take it. A few of them have such busy schedules. Thank you so much for being able to come over to attend the clan meeting of our Todd family. Why don't you hurry up and arrange a seat for the visitor? Rossiter shouted. Soon, a group of servants came over, quickly added a few seats next to the chief, and arranged for Inez and others to sit down one by one. As low-level elixir masters, Inez and others had a status only lower than Master Rudolph. Rost did not dare to let them sit in the second seat like Eklund. Several masters. After Inez and the others sat down, Eklund quickly stood up and saluted. They were both palace elixir masters, and Inez and the others could be said to be his superiors. Naturally, Eklund did not dare not say hello. Inez and the others just nodded, and then their eyes began to scan the entire hall. After scanning around, a trace of frown appeared on their faces. From the first moment they came in, Inez and the others were looking for Jason in the hall, but they could not find him at first. Now after sitting down, Inez and the others carefully searched for everyone in the hall. I looked carefully, but still couldn't find Jason. Rost, who had been paying attention to Inez and the others, naturally saw the expressions on Inez and the others. Before they could express their doubts, they heard Inez smiling and saying, Hey, Duke Leo, I have always heard that the Todd family has a disciple named Jason. We are all very curious, so we want to see what kind of person this Master Jason is? I don't know who is here. Rost and others. As soon as people heard that Inez and the others recognized Jason, they immediately understood that this matter was probably related to Jason. And Jason must have offended these masters somewhere. Seeing these masters come to visit like this, it seems that Jason has caused quite a lot of trouble. Ahem, some masters, it's like this. Our Todd family does have a man named Jason, but Leo couldn't help having a headache, arranging words, not knowing what to say for Jason. At this moment, Claude on the side couldn't wait to speak out. Master Inez, I know the Jason you are talking about. He is the descendant of Renaud, who was expelled from the family by us before. I must have a lot of respect for this Renaud. The masters must have heard about it at the beginning, but Jason has not officially joined the family yet, so he is not yet a member of our family. However, the masters can rest assured that this little guy has caused some trouble outside. Don't worry, we will ask someone to bring him here immediately, kowtow to the adults and apologize, and let the masters do whatever they want. What the hell are you talking about, Claude? No matter how well-mannered Leo was, he couldn't help it at this moment. This Claude was obviously pushing Jason into the fire pit. Leo, who was anxious, hurriedly said to Inez and others, Masters, this Jason is still a child. I don't know where I offended him. Master, don't be angry, he is still a child, please be more patient. Leo, do you want to kill the family? Humph, I have said it a long time ago, Jason should not be allowed to return to the family, so lawless people will get into trouble sooner or later. Claude snorted from the side. Okay, stop arguing. Rost frowned and roared, asking Inez and others, I wonder what they are looking for Jason for. Rost is a 7th level person. Intermediate Imperial Spiritualist, the highest-ranking person in the Todd family, is one level higher than D. Lin, the 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritualist who is the #1 master in the kingdom. Although he is extremely respectful to Inez and others, I wanted to ask the matter clearly. At least I had promised Jason to join the family a few days ago. Although he hadn't announced it in front of everyone in the family, it was a real thing. Rost is extremely fair in his work. Since Jason is already a member of the family, naturally he cannot just let anyone do it, as Claude said, not even Inez and the others, otherwise the majesty of the Todd family will where to put it. Well, after hearing what Leo and the others said, Inez knew it was a misunderstanding and was about to explain. Before Inez could finish her words, she saw the servant from before rushing in again. Came in, interrupting Inez. Bastard, what's going on? Do you know etiquette or not? Rost wanted to slap the servant in the face and shouted angrily. This, the servant shivered with fear and said in a trembling voice, Master Rudolph of the kingdom is outside and said he would come to congratulate what? Master Rudolph? Again in the hall, there were bursts of roaring sounds. Even though Rudolph was just one person, as the #1 elixir master in the kingdom, he had extremely great prestige in the kingdom. Even Rost was shocked. Quick, go out to greet them. Rost and the others all stood up with a roar and walked towards the door of the hall. Even Inez and the others stood up and walked over. Not far from the hall, I saw an old man walking towards the hall, led by a servant. It was Rudolph who had met Jason a few days ago. Seeing Rost and others from a distance, Rudolph came closer, cupped his hands, and said, Congratulations, congratulations. Rost and others were stunned. How could the first words of Master Rudolph be so different from Inez? They are all the same. I really saw a ghost today. Haha, Master Rudolph is so polite. What kind of wind brought you Master Rudolph here today? It really makes our Todd family shine. Rost and others hurriedly returned the courtesy. Haha, where is it? I heard that today is the day when the Todd family holds a clan meeting. Old man, I am here to congratulate you. As a martial arts family in the kingdom, the Todd family has made great contributions to the stability of the kingdom. It is really hard. Damn it, it's fake, it's so fake. What happened today? Rost almost collapsed. The palace elixir masters from these kingdoms had never come to the door before. Today, they suddenly appeared in a crowd, congratulating the family members. A coming-of-age ceremony was held, and another congratulatory family held a clan meeting. Could it be that these elixir masters had nothing to do every day, just looking for something to do? Rost's heart was full of sadness, and he smiled and said a few polite words. Everyone walked into the hall again and sat down one by one according to their positions. However, Master Rudolph sat directly with Inez and the others. As soon as he sat down in his seat, Rudolph smiled and continued, Duke Leo, I heard that your Todd family has a disciple named Jason. Why didn't you see him at the clan meeting today? Jason again, Rost's heart almost collapsed at this moment. What on earth did Jason do that was so outrageous that all the palace elixir masters in the Orlando Palace came to look for him? Could it be that the private laboratories of several elixir masters were set on fire? Claude glanced at Leo triumphantly, and said to himself, Leo, you are completely screwed now, and you still want to protect Jason, now let me see if you can protect him. But this Jason is too awesome. He even asked Master Rudolph to come here in person. To be honest, Claude admires Jason a little now. No matter what damn thing Jason has done, but since he can lure Master Rudolph out, he is quite famous in the Kingdom of Orlando. Ahem, Master Rudolph, what wrong thing did Jason do? As long as it is true, Rost, will never cover it up. There is nothing Rost can do now. Rudolph's status in the Kingdom of Orlando is really too high. In the past, with the prestige of the Todd family, he could still deal with it. However, in recent years, the Todd family has been suppressed by His Majesty Licent, the family's power is not what it used to be. If it offends Rudolph and his gang again, I'm afraid it will be difficult to move forward in the Kingdom of Orlando. Have you done something wrong? Rudolph was stunned for a moment, then a trace of doubt appeared on his face, and he cast his gaze on Inez and the others' faces. Did Jason do something wrong? Inez and others, the man smiled bitterly and shook his head. Well, aren't the masters here to cause trouble for Jason? Rost was also stunned. Suddenly, he realized that he seemed to have made something wrong. Didn't Jason offend Master Rudolph and the others? Then why did Master Rudolph and the others come to find Jason? Rost felt like his mind couldn't turn around. Leo and others were also confused and didn't know what to say for a while. Before Rost could speak again, the servant from earlier barged in without notice again, as if he was addicted to breaking into the hall. This time, before Rost could curse loudly, the servant hurriedly called out, "Master, the eldest prince is here, and the eldest prince is also here to congratulate the eldest prince." Everyone stared at each other. I was shocked and speechless for a moment. Haha. Rudolph and others, who knew the reason, laughed, stood up, and went out. Idiot, why are you still standing here? Why don't you go out to greet them? Hurry up, you bunch of idiots. After seeing Rudolph and others go out, Rost came back to his senses and hurriedly roared. A group of people cheered and rushed out. Not far outside the hall, Dios, wearing a moon-white robe, was seen walking slowly with 2 impressive guards. Rost and others were extremely excited, and they all stepped forward and saluted. "I have met His Royal Highness." "How many years has it been? How many years has it been?" Rost and Leo couldn't remember how long it had been since the royal family of the Kingdom of Orlando came to their family. Perhaps they hadn't come since His Majesty Lecent decided to weaken his family's power. Now, people from the royal family of the kingdom have finally come to their family again, and they are also the future crown prince, His Royal Highness, the eldest prince of the kingdom. Does this mean that the kingdom has decided to pay attention to its family again? Rost and others were all extremely excited at this moment. Haha, excuse me, you don't have to be so polite. Dio stepped forward and smiled. After seeing Rudolph and others, the smile on his face became even stronger. He hurriedly stepped forward to help Rudolph, who was hunched over. He said, "Masters, no need to be polite." "Thank you, Your Highness." Everyone stood up straight, their expressions full of respect. Dios pulled Rudolph with a hint of excitement on his face and said, "Master Rudolph, where is Master Jason? Quickly introduce me to Master Jason." During these days, Dios has been lying in the palace to recuperate. It was Jason who saved him, and he was extremely grateful. He had always wanted to visit Jason in person. When he learned that today was the clan meeting of the Todd family and Master Jason was also there, he had a simple meeting with his father, King Lecent. After saying that, he hurried out. Dios had never thought that he would be so grateful to someone, but when he thought of lying on the bed for the past 2 months, his condition getting worse day by day, life was worse than death, and he was slowly waiting for the taste of death. Dios, there was an urge to cry in my heart. As the eldest prince and crown prince of the Kingdom of Orlando, Dios has always been pampered and pampered. He never thought that he would face death so directly. He didn't know how to cherish his illness before. He was even more nostalgic, and at the same time, he was extremely grateful to Jason for saving his life and taking him back from the hands of death. After saving his dying self, Jason was almost like his own reincarnated parent. He couldn't wait to thank his benefactor in person, but he was still recovering from illness a few days ago and had no chance. Now, his heart was as full of excitement as Rost and others now. After hearing the name the eldest prince called Jason, Rost and others were all stunned. "Master Jason? This what the hell is going on?" This Rudolph smiled bitterly and said, "His Royal Highness, we have just arrived and have not seen Master Jason yet." "Where is Master Jason now?" "I am afraid that His Highness, the Great Prince, will ask Chief Leo and the others." "Yes." "Oh, so that's it." Dios nodded and cast his gaze on Rost and Leo, the anticipation in his eyes becoming even stronger. What are you still doing? Why don't you call Jason over here quickly? Rost roared at a servant next to him, and then said to Dios with an apologetic smile on his face, Your Highness, please sit inside, Jason will be here soon. No, Dios waved his hand hurriedly, no need to bother, let me see Master Jason in person. Dios didn't want to let his benefactor Jason asking others to call him over and inviting him yourself will appear more sincere. This Rost couldn't help but hesitated for a moment. He thought to himself that there was no reason for the eldest prince to meet a young man from his own family in person. He said anxiously, Your Highness, the eldest prince, please sit inside. The servant has already passed. I guess that Jason will be here soon. Dios glanced at the extremely excited Todd family present. He knew that if he insisted on going, I'm afraid all these people would follow him. What a noisy situation it would be by then, and this Todd the family is probably holding a clan conference now. It would be bad if it disrupted the conference and made Master Jason unhappy. Thinking of this, Dios could only sigh and said, Okay then, I will go in and wait for Master Jason. A large group of people walked into the family hall again, but this time, the chief seats had changed. There were originally 7 chief seats, but now only 3 are left. Dios sat in the middle, and Rudolph he and Rost sat on 2 sides, but as for Leo and Claude, they all sat on the chairs that were rearranged below. As soon as everyone sat down, they saw that the servant who had been ordered by Rost to call Jason came back alone. Where's Jason? Rost's brows immediately frowned. Well, Jason said that he is not yet a member of the Todd family, so he doesn't want to come to the clan meeting. The servant said cautiously from below. You turned against him. Rost was so angry that he was about to slam the table down when his eyes suddenly turned aside. Dios suddenly stopped his palm in midair and retracted it in embarrassment. What's going on? After hearing what the servant said, Dios frowned and said. Rost on the side was about to speak, but before he could speak, Rudolph next to him spoke first. His Royal Highness, I just heard Elder Claude of the Todd family say that Master Jason, it seems that he is not a member of the Todd family. Rudolph and the others are all sophisticated people. From the previous simple conversation between Leo and Claude, they have already heard that Jason does not seem to be accepted by the Todd family. See you soon, so I was the first to say it. Oh, Rost, is there still such a thing? Dios said in a deep voice, with a flash of light in his eyes. No, from the attitude of Dios and Rudolph when they talked about Jason, Rost already understood at this moment that things were not what he thought before. Not only did Jason not offend Rudolph and the others, but the relationship between the 2 parties seems to be very good. Thinking of this, Rost hurriedly said, Your Highness, the matter is not what Claude said. This Jason is indeed a descendant of our Todd family, and he is also a direct descendant. The Leo patriarch of our Todd family is Jason's uncle. Having said this, Rost glared at Claude and the others below, and then looked at Leo with a smile on his face. Said, Leo, why don't you hurry up and call me Jason? Please come, don't make His Highness the Prince wait here in a hurry. Rost knew in his heart that among so many people present, now the only one who can call Jason over is Leo, but Jason is obviously a member of the family, but he, his great uncle, can't call him over. What the hell is this? Rost was extremely depressed at the moment. He failed, it was such a failure. Leo also agreed silently, but he was still extremely happy that Jason could hook up with His Highness, the eldest prince. After this relationship, I am afraid that no one in the family will dare to be rude to Jason in the future. Leo took action personally, and he did not disappoint Rost. After a while, Leo led Jason and Renaud into the family hall. In fact, for Jason himself, it really doesn't matter whether he comes to the hall or not. However, in Reno, I heard from Leo that everyone was waiting for Jason in the hall, including His Royal Highness the Kingdom's Grand Prince and Master Rudolph. At that time, Leo was the only one trying to persuade Jason, but now Leo and Renaud were trying to persuade Jason together. Even Renaud, who had a very different look on his face because of what happened before, became excited at this time and kept telling Jason that he must be extremely respectful when he meets the eldest prince and Master Rudolph later. Jason couldn't say anything to this father who had been expelled from the family for more than 10 years but still cared about the family. He had to agree repeatedly. On the Stern continent, the family's status was deeply imprinted on everyone. It is deeply ingrained in the hearts of the children of a family. Jason, I have met His Highness, the eldest prince. As soon as he entered the hall, before Jason could speak, the eldest prince Dios had already hurriedly stood up from his seat and walked down. When Jason bowed and saluted, at that moment, Dios happened to walk up to Jason and supported Jason. Dios's action immediately made everyone in the hall stand up, as if they were all welcoming Jason. The eldest prince didn't even sit down, so how could Rost and the others sit safely on the chairs? Master Jason, no courtesy, no courtesy. Looking at Jason, Dio's eyes looked extremely excited. If it hadn't been for Master Jason's rescue a few days ago, I'm afraid I would still be lying on the hospital bed unable to move. Dios looked very emotional. No, this is also Your Highness's good luck. Even if there is no Jason, His Highness the Prince will surely be fine and safe. Jason said modestly. The words of Jason and Roos immediately made everyone present and unaware feel extremely confused. What's going on? From what these two people said, it seems that Jason saved the eldest prince's life 2 days ago? Rost and others thought about it carefully. Indeed, although Lysant had blocked the matter of the eldest prince's serious illness, there was no airtight wall in the world. As one of the 3 major families in the kingdom, they had indeed heard about the eldest prince's recent days. It seemed that he had some serious illness that could not be cured. When they heard that the eldest prince was coming to visit, Rost and the others didn't care. They just thought that the eldest prince's illness had been cured. But listening to what these two people said, could it be that the eldest prince's illness was cured by Jason? Is this Jason still a spiritual medicine master? Everyone was filled with doubts and speculations. Royos and Jason exchanged pleasantries, then took Jason's hand and looked at Renaud and said, Master Jason, who is this? Your Highness, this is my father Renaud. Renaud hurriedly saluted again, His Royal Highness, the common man Renaud, I have met His Highness, the great prince. Old sir, there is no need to be polite, there is no need to be polite. Dios, who had already known Jason's identity clearly, helped Renaud up. With a hint of apology on his face, he said, Oh, Renaud, it was the kingdom that couldn't forgive you back then. Why did His Highness say this? Renaud was stunned, and everyone present was also stunned. Mr. Renaud, when you were threatened by the Daos family of the Cairo Empire, our Orlando kingdom not only failed to contribute, but took advantage of the strength of the Daos family, causing the old man to be greatly humiliated and expelled by the Todd family. Father and the king, I have been apologizing all these years, and I really feel ashamed of the old man. Dios sighed. Your Highness, the Daos family has a huge influence on the mainland. The kingdom is not to blame for what happened in the first place. Although he didn't know why Dios said that, Renaud said politely and didn't really care. 18 years have passed since what happened back then. Renaud's heart has been smoothed out a long time ago. Now, he doesn't resent anyone in his heart. He just hates that he has no strength and can't leave his beloved behind. Be by your side. However, Renaud didn't care in his heart, which didn't mean that others didn't care in their hearts. Dios's words made Rost and others extremely shocked. What did His Highness the Prince mean by these words? Now that the kingdom has forgiven Renaud, does that mean the kingdom has also forgiven our Todd family? Thinking of His Highness, the Grand Prince's visit today, Rost and others confirmed their suspicions. However, why the kingdom that had been suppressing their family suddenly changed its attitude? This is not very common sense. Could it be? Is it because of Jason? Just as Rost and the others were secretly guessing, Jason raised his hands to Dios, Rudolph and others and said, "Your Highness, Master Rudolph and other masters, please go to the other courtyard with me. It would be bad if we disturbed the clan meeting of the Todd family here." Dios, Rudolph and others were stunned. The news they received showed that Jason was from the Todd family. But what Master Jason said before had another meaning. What's going on? Although Dios and the others were doubtful, they naturally would not refute Jason's words, and immediately said loudly, "Okay, let's go visit Master Jason's villa now and see how unique it is. Only in this hospital can we cultivate an extraordinary master like Master Jason." Ahem. Dios and the others agreed quickly, but Rost and the others suddenly became anxious and rushed forward to stop Jason and shouted, "Jason, as a direct disciple of our Todd family, how can you be absent from this family meeting? Come on, please take a seat." After saying that, Rost was about to pull Jason to the front of the hall. I saw Jason getting rid of Rost's pull, standing there, shaking his head, and said seriously, No, just now Elder Claude said that my father is an outsider, and Elder Karen said that my father is a sinner of the family and cannot join the clan. The meeting, otherwise the family will be ridiculed by the people in the kingdom. Alas, since the two elders said this, it makes sense. I think my father and I should go out, otherwise the family will be ridiculed by others. You have truly become a sinner of the kingdom. Oh, Rost, is there still such a thing? Dio said solemnly, and Rudolph and others turned their attention to Claude and Crane, their eyes revealing what came out was deep dissatisfaction. Rost suddenly felt a headache, but now he could no longer think so much. As soon as Jason finished speaking, Rost roared at Claude and Karen, "Claude, Karen, you two are old fools. What farts did you just make? It belongs to outsiders and sinners. This Renault is obviously a child of our Todd family. Although he was expelled from the family back then, the family has always felt extremely guilty in their hearts over the years. What I look forward to most is that Renault can return to the family." What did you two just say? Even His Royal Highness, the Great Prince, told Renault that the kingdom has felt very guilty over the years. Rost, the actual leader of the Todd family, cannot help but say it. For a moment, everyone in the hall focused their attention on Claude and Karen. Claude and Karen suddenly felt extremely embarrassed. They never thought that Jason could actually establish a relationship with His Highness, the Grand Prince and Master Rudolph. Now that the situation has reversed, the people who were forced had to bow their heads, and the two of them were riding a tiger, stood up hurriedly and said, "Third uncle, the two of us were really confused just now. Ahem, we don't even know what we said." Jason shook his head hurriedly and said, "Hey, Elder Claude and Elder Karen, as the elders of the family and with outstanding status in the family, how can you say that you are old fools? You two are the pillars of the family. If you both of them are old and confused, how can they still manage the family? I have thought clearly, I'd better leave." Rost's head suddenly grew bigger, and he thought that Jason actually firmly grasped Claude and Karen refused to let them go, but he couldn't let him really leave now. Obviously, if Jason didn't give an explanation today, Jason wouldn't give him face. "Claude, Karen, you two speak freely and are unable to manage the daily affairs of the family. From now on, you two will temporarily remove your status as elders. You will go back to me later to reflect on it." Rost roared. In fact, Rost was already angry with Claude. If Claude hadn't blocked the start of the clan meeting in the first place, how could there be so many things happening now? This, Claude and Karen never expected that Rost would actually deprive them of their status as family elders. What the hell? Rost immediately stared. Seeing the angry Rost, Claude and Karen suddenly stopped talking, but they felt extremely regretful in their hearts, especially Karen, who thought, "What kind of bad luck have I had, just following Claude? I was messing around, now it's better, the position of elder is gone." "Come on, Jason." Ross pulled Jason towards the front of the hall. This time, Jason didn't resist. In a short time, Jason was taken to the second row below the chief. Sitting in this row were the family patriarch Leo, the elders of the family, and the elixir masters of the kingdom such as Inez. Renault also sitting with Jason. The eldest Prince Dios and Rudolph also returned to their seats after seeing Jason sit down. "Hey, isn't this Earl Abel, the commander of the Kingdom City Guards? Just now Earl Abel said that I was a brat, and asked me what I was, and that I was not qualified to speak here. Oh, it turns out that Master Eaglin is here too." "No. No, he is either an Earl of the Kingdom, the commander of the Royal City Guards, or a well-known master of elixirs in the kingdom. All of them have distinguished status and high status. How can I, a child, sit in front of them? It is really disrespectful. Sit down." Jason came down and looked behind him, and when he saw that it was Abel and Eaglin, he jumped up in surprise, with an expression of shame and sincerity. "Ahem, Master Jason is too polite. In front of Master Jason and Master Rudolph, this old man, how can I be considered a master of elixirs?" Eaglin, who had been so arrogant before, said that Jason was just a kid. He stood up hurriedly and waved his hands repeatedly, but he wanted to cry in his heart. "Regarding other family matters, I was pretending to be stupid before, but now it's over, retribution has come." Eaglin secretly glanced ahead, and saw His Royal Highness the Grand Prince, Master Rudolph and others all giving him a meaningful look. What showed in their eyes was complete displeasure. "It's over, it's over, it's over now." Eaglin secretly cried out in pain. And Abel's face was as red as a monkey's butt, but even his father Claude was silent now. He didn't dare to say anything. He just lowered his head and said nothing, but he was extremely angry in his heart. Seeing Abel's look, many people in the hall wanted to laugh, but couldn't. At the same time, they felt grateful that they had not offended Jason before. After the matter came to an end, the clan meeting that had been noisy for a long time finally began. The first thing Rost did after the meeting started was to grandly announce the news of Jason's return to the family. After that, there were some family matters, but because Dios and others were present, the entire conference process was much shorter. What follows is the coming-of-age ceremony for Jason and other direct descendants who have just turned 18 this year. The whole ceremony is extremely grand. The coming-of-age ceremony is an extremely important thing for the children of a family. This represents the representativeness of these families. The children have truly become adults and can participate in some family affairs, and can obtain certain positions and titles in the family based on their abilities. Next is the last item of the entire clan meeting, allowing the newly grown-up children of these families to choose maids. Leo, who was sitting there, waved his hand and said, "Now that the coming-of-age ceremony is over, let's start choosing the maids. Butler, go and bring those maids over." Nilf, the chief butler of the Todd family, responded and waved, saw 10 young women in white plain clothes walking in slowly one after another. This time, there were 5 people attending the coming-of-age ceremony with Jason. Seeing these maids, the remaining 4 people suddenly became excited. Although they looked good on their faces, the 2 sly eyes, but he kept swimming around on the girls in front of him. Although Jason didn't care too much about choosing maids, he also looked at the girls in front of him one by one. 2 of them were particularly handsome and of high-class beauty, while the rest were far behind, but they were pretty, but the last 2 made Jason stunned for a moment. One of them was also a girl. As soon as she came in, she kept her head slightly lowered and did not dare to raise it very high. Jason could see that this girl had long hair on her face. There was a red spot on it, which affected the overall beauty. The last remaining one was even more exaggerated. She was quite fat and looked very young. She was not a maid, she was obviously a nanny. Huh? I don't know why, when Jason first saw the girl with red spots on her face, he seemed to feel a unique power emanating from the girl. When Jason used his spiritual sense to take a closer look, when he sensed it, the power disappeared, making Jason almost think it was his illusion. At this moment, Jason felt a sudden look from beside him. He turned around and saw that it was Dennington, one of the 5 teenagers who had grown up with him. He seemed to be Kelly's cousin and also Claude's grandson. After seeing Jason discovering him, Dennington showed a meaningful smile to Jason, and then turned his attention to the 2 most beautiful girls in the crowd, with a hint of excitement on his face. His eyes seemed to know that those 2 girls were his. Jason thought for a moment and guessed the reason for the matter. It was obvious that the selection of the maid was arranged by the family's butler Nilf. As long as someone arranged it, it would be easy to do anything. If Jason guessed correctly, on the schedule in the hands of the butler Nilf, the 2 most beautiful girls are definitely Dennington's, and as for myself, there is no need to guess, they are the girl with spots on her face and the nun. In large families, the maids selected during the coming-of-age ceremony are generally the private property of young people. They are not only used to clean the courtyard, wash and cook for family members, but also to serve in bed. You can choose a beautiful one. The maids are naturally the ones these young men are extremely passionate about. Mammy is just mama. Sensing Dennington's proud look, Jason didn't care. It didn't matter whether it was a girl or a mama, and at least mama worked more efficiently. But it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Regarding Claude's special arrangement and the smug expression Dennington looked at him earlier, Jason already had the urge to beat them up. He dared to give himself eye drops, then you must be able to bear your own anger. Looking at these 2 maids who were obviously very different from others, Rost frowned, and without waiting for the butler Nilf to assign the ownership of these maids, he said directly, Nielf, give me the list in your hand. Yes. Nilf hurriedly handed the list in his hand to Rost, with a hint of anxiety in his heart. Please tell me your names. Rost said to the 10 maids on the stage. Soon, the 10 maids on the stage announced their names one by one. What's going on? Some people couldn't help but wonder. When choosing maids in the past, the butler Nilf directly assigned the ownership of these maids and then reported them directly on the stage. This time the head of the family, Rost, asked these questions, what's the maid's name? Many people had doubts in their hearts, and some of the more astute people in the family had vaguely guessed it after looking at Jason on the stage, as well as the maids who were obviously good and bad, and Rost's gloomy face after hearing the name. Rost's purpose. Jason's guess was correct. On the list that Nilf handed to Rost, the 2 maids behind his name were the spotted girl and the older nun. After seeing this arrangement, Rost secretly glanced at the expressionless 4th prince and Master Rudolph. He wished he could chop the butler Nilf into pieces with one palm. If only 2 of them were arranged for Jason, Rost would not be too angry with an ordinary and pretty maid, but in the current situation, someone is obviously trying to deal with Jason. If they are really assigned like this, then my family may never be able to stand up to His Highness the Great Prince and Master Rudolph again. Good impression. Claude and other elders are fighting for power in the family with Leo, the patriarch. Rost will not care. Everything is for the benefit of the family and for the family to prosper. But if someone dares to risk everything for power in the face of the interests of the entire family, by playing tricks, Rost didn't mind making that person completely lose his status in the family. Staring at Nilf, who was standing aside, Rost said, Geely, Hazel, you 2 will serve Jason from now on. Geely and Hazel are exactly 10 maids. The 2 most beautiful people. Dennington, who had already received the news on the stage that the 2 maids were him, was stunned and said hurriedly, Great uncle, this, huh? Rost raised his head, a glimmer of light flashing in his sharp eyes. Only then did Dennington understand what situation he was in. Under Rost's eyes, he was so frightened that he shrank back and did not dare to speak out. I think Claire is more suitable to be my maid. Jason suddenly pointed at the girl with red spots on her face in front of him. Jason had already written down the girl's name when the other party reported her name. I don't know why, Jason always feels that Claire has a very unique feeling. Jason didn't care whether the maid was pretty or not, but the spotted girl named Claire aroused a little curiosity in Jason's heart. When the girl heard Jason mention her name, she shrank slightly, and her two small white jade-like hands involuntarily pinched the corners of her clothes, seeming a little panicked. What? Everyone present was stunned. Even His Royal Highness, the fourth prince, and Master Rudolph were a little surprised. They didn't understand why Jason did this. As long as he was a normal person, he would probably choose the two most beautiful girls, right? Could it be that Jason's taste is special? But this is too special. Although Rost was also surprised in his heart, he quickly said, "Ahem, then Geely, Claire, you two will serve Jason from now on." Hazel. In a short time, on the stage, the 10 maids were assigned by Rost, and Hazel was assigned by Rost to another young man in the family. The young man obviously did not expect that he would have such good luck, and a smile suddenly broke out on his face. As for that, the famous nanny was undoubtedly assigned to Dennington by Rost. Dennington's proud look on Jason on the stage could not escape Rost's eyes, so Dennington was assigned another one maid, the ugliest of them all, won 2 awards. Seeing Dennington's dead mother expression, Jason could only mourn for him silently in his heart. Okay, now that the selection of maids is over, let's all enjoy the banquet. Following the order, the maids who had been prepared outside the hall quickly walked in from the door carrying food and drinks. It was noon at this moment. At Rost's invitation, Dios, Rudolph and others also stayed to have a banquet together. After what happened in the morning, the attitude of everyone in the family towards Jason has obviously improved. Obediently, he is able to make friends with His Royal Highness, the Prince, and Master Rudolph, and Rost's attitude is so obvious. Even if these people are looking for death, they will not. No disrespect to Jason. For a time, there was an endless stream of people coming over to toast Jason, which was a bit too much for Jason to handle. Even Rost came over to toast Jason frequently. Now the future of the family is tied to Jason, and in the glory of the family in front of him, Rost also put down his arrogance. However, after Dios, Rudolph and others sat next to Jason and chatted, few people came to Jason to propose a toast. Most of the people in the hall were not well known enough to be friends with Dios and Rudolph, to the point of interrupting their conversation. As for Claude and Karen, all they can do is sit in the corner, drink wine and pretend to be grandsons. Dennington, who just got a nanny, is even more desperate. What else is there? In the mood to eat. At noble banquets, most people eat slowly, but Jason naturally doesn't care so much. He was already hungry and ate a lot, which made Dios and Rudolph look at them speechless. From Dios, Jason got some good news. The kingdom of the 6th-level metallic spiritual core he wanted had already found one. It would be sent to the palace in the next 2 days. As soon as it arrived, someone would be sent to it. Jason sent it over. Jason couldn't help but secretly sigh in his heart. King Quan still had enough strength. Even the Oliver Chamber of Commerce had some trouble with the 6th-level spiritual core. Nexant found it in a few days, but it also showed that Nexant cared about him. Now that the hardest-to-find 6th-level spiritual core is available, Jason has begun to prepare a spiritual potion to restore his father's strength. However, Jason, whose physical fitness has only reached the 6th-level primary level, is still prepared to wait until his own strength can be restored. After improving a little, you can proceed. After all, the 6th-level metallic spiritual core is not a common commodity, and I am not like in my previous life. I can find any materials I want, so I must be fully prepared. After lunch, Dios, Rudolph and others also said goodbye. Some high-status people from the Todd family sent Dios and others to the carriage outside the gate. Master Jason, please come and sit in the palace when you have time. Before leaving, Dios held Jason's hand and said a sincere invitation. Definitely, definitely. When the time comes, please don't blame me for your presumptuous visit. Jason also said with a smile. Then Rudolph and others also said goodbye to Jason one by one, and invited Jason to come and sit in their mansion when he was free. Instead, they left Rost and others at the gate, which was very embarrassing. After sending Dios, Rudolph and others away, Jason looked at Rost and others who were standing at the gate staring at him with wide eyes. Jason, who didn't know what to say, could only laugh twice and said, "Haha, I was too full from what I had eaten earlier, so I'm going back to my room first." The first thing Jason did when he returned to his villa was to tidy up his laboratory, and continued to make preparations for many days. The whole laboratory was quite messy. Jason packed all the successfully prepared elixirs together, and after counting them carefully, there were nearly 500 bottles of various elixirs, which made Jason speechless. Fortunately, Rudolph and the others didn't come to Jason's laboratory to take a look. Otherwise, they would be surprised to see so many bottles of elixirs in perfect condition. Although Rudolph is a 5th-level senior elixir master, it is certain that if he is asked to prepare these 1st and 2nd-level elixirs, success is certain, but he will never be able to prepare them to such a perfect level. These elixirs can no longer be regarded as simple elixirs, but can be called works of art of elixirs. Just like the 8th-level elixir masters of the Lingdo Empire in Jason's previous life, they can easily prepare the 5th-level high-grade 5-element elixir, but they want to prepare the 5-element elixir with the highest concentration and reach the highest critical value of the concentration of the elixir. If so, only Jason, who had reached the 9th level of elixir master at that time, could do it. Jason did a rough calculation and found that all these elixirs were handed over to the Oliver Chamber of Commerce. After deducting the original material fees, they were estimated to be worth more than 2 million spirit coins, which is not a small sum. However, he and Jason asked Oliver to compare with the millions of materials purchased by the Chamber of Commerce. It is still far behind. Although these elixirs are only first-order elixirs, and occasionally some second-order low-grade or mid-grade elixirs, the prices in the market are not high, but the quantity is really unbearable. More than 500 bottles is not a small amount. Almost this is what a low-level elixir master can produce in 1 year. However, this is also because the elixirs prepared by Jason are all elixirs in the most perfect state. If the price of ordinary elixirs like this on the market is estimated to be only more than 1 million spiritual coins based on the market price. After cleaning up everything, Jason asked Grayson to arrange a carriage for him, then loaded all the 500 bottles of elixir into the carriage and drove to Yenji's Oliver auction house. Seeing so many elixirs, Yenji was also startled, and then her face couldn't help but be excited. Although the total value of these elixirs was only 2 to 3 million, and they were all low-level, the elixirs in C, it is the most sought-after item on the Turn continent. A chamber of commerce that can supply a large amount of elixirs is definitely much more famous than ordinary chambers of commerce. What's more, the elixirs provided by Jason this time are all the most perfect. Yenji can definitely say that these elixirs are packaged and auctioned according to their grade and efficacy. They will definitely create a sensation, and the price they sell for is not Jason simply calculated that much. The most perfect elixir. Normally, a master of elixirs would prepare a bottle accidentally after successfully preparing elixirs of this type countless times. Now that the Oliver Chamber of Commerce can throw out so many at once, for the Oliver Chamber of Commerce, it's an opportunity. Thinking of this, Yenji couldn't help but feel excited. After instructing his servants to carefully collect these elixirs into the auction house, Jason came to Yenji's office. At Yenji's place, Jason got another good news, that is, the materials that Jason asked Yenji to purchase turned out to be all have been transported to the royal city. This surprised Jason. After Lee Sin told Jason that he would find the 6th order spiritual core for him, Jason asked Yenji to stop the acquisition of the 6th order spiritual core. At that time only part of the materials had been found, but now a few days have passed, and all the materials have arrived in the royal city. Now that the materials are all available, Jason can only lament that he is not strong enough. He can only wait until he is promoted to a high-level spiritual warrior before he can start preparing the elixir. When he came out of the Oliver auction house, the carriage Jason was riding in was already filled with those materials. Jason inspected these materials one by one and found that there was nothing damaged or substandard. But Jason also discovered one thing at the same time, that is, there were too few available people around him. Now, there were only 2 maids and Wayne who were just assigned to him. For example, delivering the elixir today requires you to do it yourself. In the previous life, there would have been a bunch of people who had taken care of the matter. Jason was also thinking about whether to find 2 people somewhere to find the time. The 2 maids just assigned today can basically only be used to clean other courtyards and handle daily housework. As for Wayne, Jason, who has lost all his strength, is not confident about letting him do things, and Wayne is just following him now. He was not his servant, so he always asked Grayson to do things for him. Jason also felt that this was not a long-term solution. While thinking, Jason returned to the family's mansion and called the guards of the 2 families. Jason asked them to hold the sealed materials and follow him towards his villa. These guards had heard a lot about Jason's deeds today. After hearing Jason's instructions, they naturally followed Jason and followed Jason's instructions to send the materials to Jason's experiment. When I left the room, I still had a happy smile on my face. Master. When Jason was about to go back to his room, he saw 2 girls standing at the door of his room. They were the 2 maids from before. So it's you, come in first, I forgot about you. Jason opened the door and walked in. As soon as he entered the room, Jason sat down on a chair. The 2 maids immediately stood in front of Jason obediently. The one named Geely had obviously received good maid training. Although she was a little nervous, her performance was okay. As for Claire, she stood behind Geely with her head lowered and her hands holding the corners of her skirt, looking extremely shy. When Geely was suddenly assigned to Jason by Rost in the hall, she was still a little unwilling. From the first day she was trained by the Todd family, she knew her future destiny. When she became the maid of a certain young master in the family, she found out that she would be assigned to young Master Dennington. Geely was still satisfied with this. In the Todd family, the elders of Claude and others have great power, and Claude's grandson Dennington is naturally quite popular in the family. For Jason, who suddenly became her master, Geely, I don't understand it at all. Later, after the distribution was over and she left the hall, she saw many servants serving in the hall looking at her with envy after they came out. Only then did she learn from the comments of the servants next to her about the identity of her current master Jason, a talented man. The young master, who had only returned to the family for a few days, was the one who asked the kingdom's eldest prince and Master Rudolph to personally come to the family to congratulate him. Regarding this result, Geely was surprised and happy. In a big family like the Todd family, although they all work as maids, different masters naturally have different statuses. With a powerless master, having been punished all his life, following a powerful master will naturally bring him great glory, and this Jason is obviously extremely secretive. Jason lay on the chair, looked at the 2 people in front of him and said, I know your names, tell me what you do, and tell me about the situation in your respective families? The beautiful maid named Geely was not afraid of anything. Nodded and said, Master Jason, I have been adopted by the family since I was a child. I train and work in the family every day. I know basic tasks such as washing and cooking, and I also know the etiquette that ordinary maids should know. Everyone understands. As for the situation at home, I have been an orphan since I was a child, so I was adopted by the family, so I have no parents. Jason nodded. The maids in a big family like the Todd family are not like ordinary small families. They all have to undergo strict training since childhood. It seems that Geely has graduated from the Family Maid Training Center. It just so happens that Jason is also short of some cleaning and laundry people. With these 2 maids, it just so happens that Jason alleviating Jason's urgent need. What about you, Claire? Jason looked at the other maid next to him. Claire seemed to be extremely shy and had been hiding behind Geely. After hearing Jason's question, her body trembled, she stood up and stammered, "I don't know anything and I don't know the situation at home." "What?" Jason couldn't help but frowned and said, "You raised your head to speak, what's going on?" Claire raised her head tremblingly, her short golden hair parted softly on her shoulders. "There is an obvious red spot on the right side of the face." However, what puzzles Jason is that the red spots on most people's faces are caused by skin diseases and excessive reactions of body surface cells. These reasons can be detected by using spiritual consciousness. It can be known, and general elixirs can also treat it well. However, the red spots on Claire's face were not abnormal at all under Jason's spiritual perception, as if the area was intact skin. What surprised Jason even more was Claire's pupils. A pair of slightly silver eyes give people a very strange feeling. Perhaps this Kulea is a member of a special race. Jason suddenly realized. In his previous life, he had a prominent position and had extensive knowledge. He also knew that there were many races on the continent, and they all had subtle differences in appearance, such as those with red skin. Americans, in addition to normal humans, also have some other races. These races generally look similar to humans, but there are differences, such as snake people, werewolves, etc. However, Jason has only heard that for each race, not too understanding. In his previous life, he devoted himself to the study of elixirs and became a 9th-level elixir master at the age of 27. This has a lot to do with the fact that he did not ask anything about the outside world and devoted himself to the study of elixirs. Although Jason's status in his previous life was he is very tall, and in terms of elixir science, he is like Mount Tai and Beidou. However, he knows very little about other aspects, such as the history of the mainland, the race of the mainland, and the customs of the mainland. "Master Jason, I was bought from the slave farm a few days ago by someone from this family. I have forgotten what happened before," Claire said timidly, compared to Ji Li's previous decent behavior. The gap between the two was immediately revealed. "Isn't it?" Jason was a little surprised. Generally speaking, due to loyalty and other reasons, maids who are direct descendants of the family have been strictly trained and assessed by the family. There is no chance of going to the slave market to buy one temporarily. Happened, and it was obvious that Claire appeared because Claude and the others wanted to find an ugly maid for Jason. They bought Claire after seeing the spots on her face in the slave market, so that Nun was probably also a maid. Lauder and the others didn't know where they came from. After understanding the cause of the matter, he didn't bother to ask Ji Li and Claire any other questions. He nodded and said, "Well, that's it. Claire, then you will learn from Ji Li what a maid should learn. Things, now you two go to the back room to tidy up. You two will live there in the future. After tidying up, if you see anything that needs to be done in the yard, just do it yourself. I don't need it here. I'll serve you." Ji Li and Claire agreed at the same time and exited Jason's room. After sending Ji Li and Claire away, Jason began his own practice. In the past few days, he continued to prepare spiritual potions, which made Jason's spiritual consciousness reach the strength of a senior spiritual warrior, and the spiritual power in his body. The power is also changing from the spiritual power of the intermediate spiritual warrior to the spiritual power of the advanced spiritual warrior. For ordinary spiritual masters, after being promoted to the spiritual master level, the only meridians that can run in the body are the spiritual master level meridians. The remaining spiritual disciple level meridians and the meridians of levels 1 to 9 are due to the spiritual power of the spiritual master level. That violent power cannot operate at all. But Jason was different. The meridians transformed by the bodybuilding spiritual liquid allowed him to operate spiritual power as long as he could cultivate the meridians, and the speed of absorbing spiritual power was several times that of a normal spiritual master. Jason, who was in penance, completely locked himself in the room, feeling the spiritual elements in the air, running the spiritual power in his body, and forgetting to eat and sleep. Time passes day by day, and in the blink of an eye, a month has passed. In the afternoon, the bright sunshine in spring spread like a goose-down quilt on everyone on the earth. In the small courtyard in front of Jason's house, Wayne was lying quietly on a stone bench by himself, taking a bath. In the soft sunlight. "It's good to be here, but when will Jason come out? Didn't he say he wanted to study and come up with a perfect solution?" Wayne, who was lying on the stone bench, glanced at Jason's closed door. Muttered in his mouth. For Wayne, these days are the most comfortable days since he left the Cairo Empire. After being brought into the Todd family by Jason, he can eat well, wear warm clothes, sleep well every day, read books and raise flowers in his leisure time. It's quite a leisurely trip. Normally, Wayne would have been satisfied with such days, but after learning from Jason more than a month ago that Jason could cure his curse, Wayne's heart was full of expectations. But he didn't expect that after Jason brought him into the family, he would just throw him away and never care about him again, which made Wayne extremely depressed. At the beginning, even though Jason had told him about the curse he had received. But Wayne still had great doubts about the curse that Jason said could cure him. The reason why he came in was just to treat a dead horse as a living horse doctor. But while chatting with a servant of the Todd family, Wayne heard about the reason why His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of the Kingdom of Orlando and Master Rudolph, known as the #1 elixir master in the Kingdom of Orlando, came before the clan meeting. The reason for coming to visit Jason was that Wayne's heart became active after Jason previously cured the eldest prince's disease that Master Rudolph and other elixir masters in the kingdom's elixir palace could not cure. Regarding the visit of the eldest prince and others at the clan meeting, the Todd family immediately conducted an investigation. The Todd family is also one of the 3 major families in the kingdom, and it is not a secret that the eldest prince was ill a few days ago. Soon, almost everyone in the Todd family knew that Jason cured the eldest prince's disease, and it also spread among the servants. That was a disease that countless elixir masters in the entire kingdom's elixir master palace, including Master Rudolph, the kingdom's #1 elixir master, could not cure, but Jason cured it all at once. For the first time, Wayne felt a sense of confidence in Jason's words that he could cure his curse and restore his strength. But what left Wayne speechless was that after Jason told everyone in the hospital that he was going to retreat to practice more than a month ago, he hid in his room alone and never came out again. At first, the anxious Wayne could wait patiently, but after half a month, Wayne couldn't bear it anymore, so every morning from then on, Jason appeared on the bench in front of his room. Wayne's waiting figure appeared. People who don't understand think that Wayne is guarding Jason for Jason, and they are envious that Jason has such a loyal servant as Wayne. In fact, these people don't know that Wayne will feel sorry for Jason countless times every day here. Waiting. Really, you won't let me, who is the noble emperor spiritual master, wait for a year and a half? Wayne curled his lips speechlessly. As an emperor spiritual master, he also often retreated in seclusion for a year and a half. There are some, but he is depressed, but Wayne has no way to do it, and he doesn't dare to go to the room to wake Jason up. If someone gets angry and doesn't treat him, then he will be unlucky. After all, he doesn't owe him anything. What myself? Thinking of this, Wayne suddenly saw that the door to the room that he had looked at countless times every day but was always closed seemed to be open at this time. Wayne couldn't help but be stunned. Before he could react, he saw Jason, who had been in seclusion in the room for a month, slowly walked out of the room and looked at the bright sunshine outside. Jason had a newborn baby smile on his face. "Haha, Jason, you finally came out." Wayne hurriedly walked up and said with a smile on his face. "Wayne, why are you here? Are you okay?" Jason also had a smile on his face. After this month of continuous training, Jason finally reached the intermediate level of spiritual power in his body 2 days ago. The peak of the spiritual warrior, and then the night before yesterday, he successfully broke through and became a high-level spiritual warrior. However, after the breakthrough, Jason did not come out immediately. Instead, he consolidated inside for a whole day, converting all the spiritual power in his body into the power of a high-level spiritual warrior, and then left his room. At this moment, the rich power of a high-level spiritual warrior was constantly flowing in Jason's body, giving Jason a powerful feeling. Ahem, well, didn't you say you were the one who would research and check for me? Wayne stammered with a naive look. Jason understood immediately, with a smile on his face, like a boss comforting his subordinates. He patted Wayne on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, since I said it, I will definitely not break my promise." That's good, haha, that's what I'm saying. Wayne laughed excitedly. If anyone in the past had dared to photograph Wayne, a former 8th level senior imperial spiritual master, like this, Wayne would have been furious. But now in front of Jason, Wayne, who was full of expectations for Jason, did not feel the slightest emotion. No, not even Wayne himself noticed this subtle change. After feeling his perfect state, Jason nodded and walked towards his laboratory, while Wayne followed Jason obediently. Huh? Just when the two of them walked to the door of the laboratory and were about to go in, Jason suddenly frowned and said, "Wayne, did you hear any noise? Sound? It seemed like there was something." "What's that sound?" Wayne was stunned for a moment, then calmed down and said with a frown, "What do you want to do? Get away quickly, otherwise, Master Jason will not let you go." A familiar voice sounded in Jason's perception. Although the voice changed a bit due to panic, she recognized that it was the voice of Geely, the maid she had just been assigned. "Haha, Master Jason? What nonsense are you two talking about? Your Master Jason has died these days. Besides, you two are just little maids. He will die because of you two maids. Are you offending us? Haha, it's just a joke." A maniacally laughing voice came, with a lewd and vulgar tone that was disgusting. "Come on, Wayne, let's go take a look." Jason walked towards the place where the sound came from with a gloomy face. In a garden not far outside Jason's villa, Geely and Claire were leaning against a rockery very nervously, with panic on their faces. Several teenagers blocked the two of them with faces on their faces. With lewd smiles on their faces, these teenagers were descendants of the Todd family, such as Dennington. "Master Dennington, what do you want to do? Get out of the way quickly, otherwise, I will scream." Geely pretended to be calm. "Scream, haha, you scream, it's useless even if your throat is broken." Dennington, who took the lead, spat hard and said with an evil smile, "Geely, you were supposed to be my maid, but you were assigned to that Jason, huh? I really don't know what the family did." "Geely, you better stop resisting and just obey me, the young master. That Jason is just a guy who was expelled from the family, nothing more. What are you capable of? If you follow me, I will guarantee that you will be popular, drink hot food, and enjoy endless wealth, haha." "That's right, Geely, being with Master Dennington is better than that of Master Jason like you. Much better." Some other teenagers also laughed. Amid the wild laughter of the crowd, Dennington reached out and touched Geely, who was leaning against the rockery and unable to retreat, with a lustful smile on his face. "Bad guy, get out of here, you are not allowed to bully Sister Geely." Claire, who had been silent and hiding aside, suddenly rushed out and pushed Dennington hard with both hands. "Ugly guy, why are you here to join in the fun? Do you also want your brother to favor you? Haha, it's a pity that you are so ugly. Damn it, and Jason is so serious. He actually chose you specifically. The taste is really special." "Ah, haha." Seeing Claire rushing out, Dennington slapped her away. "Claire, be careful," Geely exclaimed. Although Dennington is only 18 years old, under the cultivation of his family, he has now reached the level of an intermediate spiritual warrior. How could an ordinary maid like Claire hurt Dennington? In front of Dennington, Dennington slapped him away. There was a sound of bang, and Claire fell heavily to the ground under Dennington's blow. However, what surprised everyone present was that Dennington, an intermediate spiritual warrior, also defeated Dennington. With this push, Leia took 2 steps back and sat down on the ground. How is this possible? Everyone exclaimed in their minds. You bitch, you're looking for death. Dennington let out an angry roar. He jumped up suddenly, and the spiritual power in his body exploded. He rushed towards Claire, who also stood up and stared at him stubbornly. He roared, I'm going to kill you. Claire's previous blow, to push him down, made Dennington feel really angry. No. Geely exclaimed, covering her eyes involuntarily with her hands, not daring to look any further. Claire, on the other hand, stared with her silver eyes at Dennington, who was rushing towards her, without the slightest fear in her eyes. Just when Dennington's fist was about to hit Claire, a strong whistle of air came, and then a figure appeared in front of Claire like lightning. Grabbing the condensed Dennington's fist took all of his strength. Who the hell dares to interfere with my good deeds? Feeling the severe pain in his wrist, Dennington cursed angrily, but when he saw who was standing in front of him, the anger in his mouth, the scolding suddenly stopped. Jason ignored Dennington's shouting. His eyes fell on Claire behind him, and he said softly with concern in his expression, Claire, are you okay? Everything that happened before Jason was in the distance. Seeing them all, he never thought that in Geely's crisis, this girl who was shy even speaking in front of him would be able to burst out with such courage and strength. Master Jason, I'm fine. Under Jason's caring gaze, Claire lowered her head shyly and said softly, Master Jason. Geely on the side also opened her eyes at this time and exclaimed with joy. Jason nodded, and his cold eyes fell on Dennington in front of him the next moment. Jason, what do you want to do? Why don't you let go of my hand quickly? Dennington's right wrist has been firmly held by Jason. No matter how hard Dennington exerts his strength, he can't break free. His wrist is in great pain. After feeling Jason's cold gaze, he yelled fiercely and with bitterness in his heart. What do you want to do? Jason chuckled, and then, with a pop, Jason slapped Dennington hard on the cheek. This slap directly killed Dennington on the spot. The whole person flew out. You dare to do this to me? Jason, you are crazy, I tell you. Dennington stood up from the ground in a panic, spitting out a broken tooth from his mouth, roaring with red eyes. Bang! With a sound, Jason slapped Dennington hard on the face again and flew him away again. This time, Dennington spat out a mouthful of blood in midair. After landing, half of Dennington's cheeks became bruised and swollen at a visible speed like fermented steamed buns. This time is just a warning. Don't touch my people in the future. Otherwise, no one in the family can protect you. Jason's cold tone sounded over the garden, like a declaration of judgment, and his cold eyes scanned the people present. All the family members. Under Jason's cold, sword-like gaze, these family disciples all remained silent and did not dare to say a word. This Jason is a figure who can easily defeat Brother Kelly, a third-level senior spiritual master, in the martial arts training field. The children of these families know in their hearts that even if everyone here is there, they cannot be Jason's opponent. Dan Neen-tun is a good example. Looking at Jason's back in front of her, Claire suddenly felt an inexplicable emotion in her heart. The words, "Don't touch my people from now on," made Claire's eyes change to Jason's back in an instant. Incomparably huge, it was a feeling of great peace in my heart, like returning to my mother's arms. Let's go. After Jason finished speaking, his eyes fell on Claire and Geely. His eyes became gentle at the same moment, and then he walked towards his own courtyard. The young men of the family present immediately dispersed as if they had seen a ghost, making way for a wide road, looking at Jason with fear in their eyes. For the sake of 2 maids, this Jason actually beat up the young master of the direct line of the family without hesitation. He did not hesitate at all. It was terrible, it was really terrible. Isn't this Jason afraid of the family's sanctions? All the young people's hearts were pounding at this moment. Wayne, who was watching Jason's quick and easy tactics from a distance, had a smile on his face and murmured, "It seems good to have such a protective young master." In a low voice, Wayne turned around and got on Jason, who walked away. Master Jason. In Jason's yard, Claire and Geely lowered their heads at the moment, not daring to make a sound. Claire was embarrassed, but Geely knew that Jason's behavior before, how much trouble it had caused him in the family. Thinking that the cause was because of herself, Geely felt a little guilty in her heart. But Claire didn't understand anything. She just lowered her head, but her heart was beating like a deer. Haha, it's okay. If anything happens to you two in the future, just tell me. Since you are my maids, you are my people. I will protect your safety. In this world, I will never allow anyone to someone who hurt me, Jason. Jason had a trace of concern in his eyes. Yes, we understand, Master. Geely nodded vigorously, and a blush quickly appeared on Claire's ears, spreading to her neck. Even the back of her neck was red, under the sunlight, looks pink and translucent. Okay, you all go and do your work. I'm going to the laboratory now. Remember not to let others disturb me until I come out. Jason gave the final order and turned around and entered the laboratory. Looking at his somewhat crude laboratory, Jason exhaled a long breath, slowly sat in the laboratory, and calmed down his mood. After a while, Jason's eyes suddenly opened, and a lightning-like light flashed in Jason's eyes. Jason, who had adjusted himself to the most perfect state, slowly stood up and walked to the experiment in front of the material cabinets in the room. He took out the materials that had been prepared one by one. With each piece of material taken out, Jason's heart became more settled. After all the materials were taken out, Jason's heart was like a mirror-like lake, without any ripples. Taking out a bottle of spiritual element separation liquid, a flash of light suddenly flashed in Jason's eyes. The sixth-order metallic spiritual core, sent to him by Lecent, had already appeared in Jason's hand. At the next moment, with the unique technique was used by Jason to pour into the transparent spiritual element separation liquid that was filled with particles of silver shining like stars. Chi-Chi, the flashing silver light in the spiritual element separation liquid quickly attached to the surface of the golden metallic spiritual core after the spiritual core was put into it. In a burst of Chi-Chi, the metallic spiritual core moved at a speed visible to the naked eye. Dissolving, Jason's heart felt empty. He ignored the separated metallic spirit core, picked up a pile of materials next to him, and began to prepare the basic materials. During the entire process, Jason used his eyes and spiritual consciousness to quietly observe the reaction speed of the elixir without making too many operations, every change in smell, every change in color of the solution, every change in the solution. The changes in volume are like data, beating and changing in Jason's mind one by one, with incomparable precision. And Jason's spiritual consciousness is more like a dense golden net, overwhelmingly covering the entire preparation bottle, sensing any changes in the reaction of the spiritual elements in the preparation bottle. The combination of physical changes and spiritual consciousness mutually confirmed the changes in the materials in the preparation bottle, allowing Jason to have absolute control over the preparation of the elixir in front of him. This was definitely not just an optimization of 1 + 1 = 2. At this moment, Jason was like a machine, making various preparation steps one by one, accurate to every micro point.